Here is the new magazine. And oh, by the way, something they did not tell you in the commercial, let me tell you real quick. A personal friend of mine, Pastor Jeff Arnold from Gainesville, Florida, was preaching in a meeting and he fell over dead at the close of his sermon. There was a doctor in the house. The doctor pronounced him dead. A couple of nurses were there as well. However, after being totally unresponsive for around 10 minutes or so, he came back to life, stood back in the pulpit, and preached again. Amazing. Now, the article's all here. We personally interviewed him. I talked to him, my good friend. He's a good friend of mine, so I know exactly who this man is. He's not going to tell a lie about these things. But why should it be amazing to us that God would raise the dead? It happened in the Bible. And if Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So that's this edition of Endtime Magazine. You can read for yourself an account of a person that I know very well, been with him a lot of times, preached in his church, raised from the dead. A great testimony. You've got to read it. It's marvelous. Plus the Arab Spring, plus ICC arrest warrants for U.S. citizens, all that. Great edition of Endtime Magazine, and you can subscribe right now. Do not wait. Pick up your phone right now, 1-800-ENDTIME. If you're driving down the road, pull over the side of the road, dial right now, 1-800-ENDTIME. If you prefer the numbers, it's 1-800-363-8463. Hope you get your copy right now. And by the way, we are sending a copy of every magazine to every U.S. senator, every U.S. congressman, every U.S. governor, to our president, our vice president, and many of the world's foremost influencers. However, their subscriptions have run out, and we have to renew them now. We don't want them to miss this edition. They need to read, Is Sodomy a Civil Right? They are being pressured beyond belief right now to reverse the law called DOMA, Defense of Marriage Act. Did you believe you would live to see the day when our Congress would have to defend marriage and we would have a president that is fighting against the Defense of Marriage Act? That's where we are right now. And this magazine needs, it's desperate that it goes to every U.S. senator, every congressman. So pick up the phone right now. Please help us with this. The total cost for this project is like $19,000. We're right now sitting at $1,300. So we got a little bit of a hill to climb. I mean, wouldn't it be great if somebody called up and said, I'll give $5,000 toward that or $10,000. We could wipe this out. I mean, we need to wipe it out like yesterday. So if you want to help, no matter whether, I mean, you may just want to subscribe for one of your lawmakers at $29. If that's what you can do, that's what you can do. It's greatly appreciated. Do the best you can. We're in a fight for the future of this nation. The next 3 or 4 months may determine the future of this nation. We will be choosing a Republican nominee in the next 3 to 4 to 5 months, and it's time to fight for Judeo-Christian values now. Well, the number to call to do all those things, 1-800-ENDTIME, and thank you very much for your support. Our special guest today is Mr. Michael Parenti, and he's written a lot of things, but this particular article that caught my eye is the demonization of Slobodan Milosevic. You know, Michael, back when all this was coming down, when they were wanting to go in and take Milosevic out, I noticed that they were beating the drums to remove him from power. Then I watched while they bombed the daylights out of Yugoslavia. Then after that, apparently we funneled a lot of money in there to defeat Slobodan Milosevic in the next election, and he was defeated. And then we told the new president, now you must extradite Milosevic to the World Court at The Hague. We want to place him on trial. And the new president said, well, we don't have an extradition treaty with the United Nations. George W. Bush said, you better get one. And so he went to the parliament and tried to pass an extradition treaty, and the parliament of Yugoslavia would not pass it. It was voted down. Then so the new president said to George W. Bush, I tried, I can't do it. He said, well, just do it like I do. Do it by executive order. So the cabinet issued an executive order However, Milosevic was ready for that in that the court was all poised, and the Supreme Court of Yugoslavia ruled that it was unconstitutional for the Yugoslavian cabinet to issue an executive order to export or to extradite Mr. Milosevic. Mm-hmm. Well, none of that mattered at all because that night the helicopters moved in and kidnapped Milosevic. He woke up at The Hague the next morning. I followed all those things. I was absolutely horror-struck when I saw what we were really involved in.
That's right. And after 2 years of prosecution, witnesses, and trial, the head prosecutor, Carla Del Ponte, a Swiss-Italian, resigned, and she said they laid out the prosecution case. They kept searching for witnesses. Every time a witness would come on and recant and say, "No, I don't see him do anything wrong," and this and that. The whole case was falling apart, and she said, "As of now, we don't have a case against him," and he was about to build his case. By the way, I was invited as one of the expert witnesses by him and his
really.
Team. But we never got there because one day he suddenly woke up dead. He was dead, and according to the New York Times report, the obituary said that they did not the obituary. I mean the
autopsy.
Pardon me.
Autopsy.
Autopsy. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The autopsy. They claimed there was a substance in his body which he had took to feign a heart attack, so that he would then be released and sent to Russia to get medical aid from the Russian medical establishment, and he would actually never come back. He would stay in Russia with his wife, who was there in Russia now. I mean, this is the biggest, most improbable, ridiculous story. First of all, they would have never sent him off to Russia, but they said, and this substance killed him. I still think there were things there that to this day have not been properly investigated. But in any case, he was preparing his side, after the prosecution took 2 years laying out their case, and there wasn't a case. And by the way, one of the judges said the same thing. This doesn't seem to be much. The new head judge who came in, named Patrick Robinson, he said, we're going to have to do a radical reevaluation of this case so far. And he was making certain comments to the effect that there really isn't a case against Milosevic. He didn't commit any great mass atrocities. I mean, there was blood on everybody's hands. It was a three-way fight. The Croatians were fighting. They got all that help that they got from the Vatican and the Catholic Church. The Muslims were fighting, and they got support from Islamic interests. And you had the Serbs sort of standing alone. And when I was there, by the way, Serbia was the only multi-ethnic republic of all the republics. In Serbia, I met Kosovo Albanians who lived there. I met Bosnian Muslims who lived there, and they were tolerated. None of them were getting kicked out. It's the Serbs who got kicked out of Croatia. It's the Serbs who got kicked out of Kosovo. Still getting kicked out right now, as we read the papers lately.
Michael, let me tell you something. You know a lot more about this than I do, but I'm going to tell you something you do not know. At this time, I was broadcasting. Our program was on way back then. And so I was talking about these things. Well, I'd gotten up one morning, and at 6:30 in the morning, I heard a brief interview on NPR News. And it was of this lady, and she was really laying out things concerning Yugoslavia's position. And she was saying what I had suspected. And they immediately cut her off. I mean, she wasn't on there over 90 seconds. I grabbed my pen. I wrote down the name of the station, the exact time that she was on. I went to my office, and I said to my research assistant, Kathy, I want to find out who that lady was, and I want to have her on this program. So she called the same day, that station, and they said there was no one like that on this station.
Oh, my God.
And she said, there was. My boss wrote it down exactly what had happened. Well, Kathy could be pretty persistent. So she kept calling, and then she called back. Finally, she got a hold of a lady who said, I'm going to tell you who that was. But if you tell anyone I told you who it was, I will deny it.
Mm-hmm.
And she told her that was the information minister of Yugoslavia during the Milosevic reign.
Oh, I see.
We got on the phone, we called Yugoslavia, and we had her on for an interview. As we were doing the interview, when I was finished with 1 hour with that lady from Yugoslavia on the phone, my staff came to me and said, "We were bumped off of satellite today, blacked out." I said, "You're kidding me."
Wow.
They said, "No, it's true." I was so aggravated that such a thing could happen in the United States of America that I took the recording and I played it the next day. The next day, they did not black us out. But nevertheless, that's an experience I had with this whole thing, so I'm very familiar with what you're talking about.
Yeah, you've had firsthand experience. Yeah, they go to no ends that they don't go to suppress the truth.
Okay, now let's get to the root cause, though, here, Michael, and I think that's what everyone needs to hear. My conclusion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my conclusion was that part of the big New World Order design is for the European Union to rule all of Europe. And Milosevic was unwilling to surrender Yugoslavian sovereignty so that he could be absorbed into the European Union, and that's the reason he planted his heels. As a matter of fact, after he was toppled and after Yugoslavia joined the European Union, President Clinton was given the Charlemagne Prize for removing Milosevic and allowing the unification. The Charlemagne Prize is given every year to the person that does the most to contribute to European unification. That's the reason it's called the Charlemagne Prize, because he's the father of the European Union, of the Holy Roman Empire. And so I actually have pictures of him receiving the Charlemagne Prize in Aachen, Germany, the home of Charlemagne. And I believe that that was the reason that Clinton was moving in order to build the New World Order as it is conceived by the globalist. He had to go so that Yugoslavia could be incorporated into the European Union. Am I off base or am I on target?
Well, right. Was it Yugoslavia, or was Yugoslavia was first broken up into these little mini republics, Croatia, Bosnia, Slovenia, and they have all been ushered into the European Union, or am I wrong on that?
Well, I do know that whatever Milosevic was ruling, whatever it became, it is now part of the European Union.
Right.
I'm not sure about all the rest.
Yeah. And you're right. The European Union is a super government, and which you see. The bigger and the higher you grow your government, the more international scope it has, the more out of reach it is, the more you can't get to it. I mean, I can get to my city council here sometimes, but I can't get up to the UN.
Yeah, it becomes untouchable. Our guest today is Mr. Michael Parenti. We're having such an interesting discussion. We're halfway through the program. We will be taking your calls also today. If you'd like to participate, 877 Endtime's the number to call.